things, and this is How to MMO through FFXIV. And what we're going to be doing is talking a little bit about the basic controls. Someone brought up that I may have been going a little too fast in not explaining how to actually physically do things. I could definitely try to explain how to do things through the game, but maybe not so much how to actually physically do that with a controller or keyboard. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to go ahead and go over a couple of the basics of how to control your character and move around in an MMO RPG typically. We'll go over controllers first, and then we'll kind of get into keyboard and mouse, which is going to be a little different, but since we're on PS4 here, and you can hook up you usually can connect a controller to a PC for mini games. We'll go over that really quick, and then we'll go over that as well, and we'll go over some things specifically for Final Fantasy. Firstly, we'll go over just your basics. Typically, anything that you can interact with in a MMORPG or in a game world, but very much more so specifically with MMOs, is you'll have to they'll be selectable, and what that means is you'll actually be able to select them as if you were in a menu of sorts. On PlayStation 4 and Final Fantasy 14, or if you're using a controller, as far as I would guess, because I've only used a PlayStation 4 controller, there are a couple ways that you can select. You can hit X, and what that will do, if you press X, it will select the closest thing to you within your line of sight, or within your direct line of sight. So if we want to talk to Mio, the Flame Lieutenant, we can just hit X and walk up to him, and if we hit that selects him. Now to interact with him, we have a couple different options. If we hit square on PlayStation 4 on a PlayStation 4 controller, if we hit square, it'll bring up the menu, and that's going to be the same for pretty much everything in Final Fantasy. If you're looking for, if you want to bring up the menu for an item to see what kind of things you can do for that item, you would just have to select it and hit square, and it'll bring up all the different actions you can do with that item. So for example, with this marmot meat, we can search for the item, and it'll tell us how many are in a player's. It'll tell us all that information, which is a lot. Searching for pieces of marmot meat in player and retainer inventory. So it'll tell us, and then searching for pieces. So it'll tell us how many it's found in player and retainer inventories. I'm not exactly sure what the range on that is, if it's just within the area or if it's throughout the whole server. But if it is throughout the whole server, I would imagine it's probably going to be 4, more than 4. So it may be in the vicinity. I'm not sure on the specifics on that one. And then also searching for pieces of marmot meat with the little icon next to it. In Final Fantasy 14, that denotes that an item is high quality, which is generally going to be, it'll have either more benefits than a normal quality item. So if it's a piece of armor, it'll have higher stats and such. Or we'll talk about high quality later on. That's not really something we need to worry too much about now. It'll give us here we can link the item, so it'll pop into our menu or into our chat bar, and we can enter it and say it, and then people can actually look at they can actually take their cursor and place it on the item in the chat bar, and it'll bring up the tooltip for it, so people can see it. And they can see what it does, and they can see all the information for that item. We can set it to our hotbar if we want to, which we could do. If we click on that, it'll say a hotbar palette. Press a button combination to assign it to an action. Now on controller, what that's going to mean is that we're going to want to place this on our crossbar, and by doing that, we would do it as if we were if we were using an ability. So let's say we want to put it on the farthest left button on the bottom there, the lowest button on the farthest left and on the bottom. We would go to L2 because that'll bring up the left side of our crossbar, and we would press down on the control pad. And that would place that item there so that we could use it much more easily than having to go to our inventory. Let's see what else we can do here. We can split it, so that means we can split the count into any number that we want. So we can split it. We can take 3 of them and leave 1. We can take 2 of them and leave 2. So we can split it up if we want, and that's just good for selling things and things like that on the market board. And we can discard it, so we can get rid of it entirely, or we can sort. Now this isn't going to sort that item. This last one is actually going to sort our entire inventory. So we'll go ahead and do that, and it sorts it automatically. I think there is a way to set how the sort button works and what it prioritizes. I usually keep it on the default because what it's going to do is it's going to put potions are going to take the highest priority, and then any kind of usable beneficial item is going to go under that, so such as food, like our marmot steak that we received for the quest rewards, and then it'll just go with whatever follows after, crafting materials and things like that, and the last is going to be lower priority things such as just miscellaneous items like the 10 pieces we could have gotten as a quest reward, or the things that may not necessarily be usable by your character. So just as a review, let's see. These potions are actually pretty good, pretty useful, and we're going to want to use them. We're going to be able to want to use them really easily. So we'll definitely want to set them to our hotbar. So we'll just select. We'll highlight the potion, and we'll hit square to bring up the menu. And then we're going to go select, set the hotbar. Now I like my potions on the farthest left on the top slot there. So I'm going to hold L2, and then you can see as I go over the crossbar that there are going to be, let's see if we can bring up our cursor, we can. There are going to be these buttons here. There's buttons here, and these are the buttons that are assigned to that slot. So over here on the right side of the left side crossbar, we've got triangle, which is, this slot is assigned to triangle, this slot is assigned to circle, and this slot is assigned to X. So what that means is if we want to use either of these slots, that means we need to hit L2, and then if we wanted to use the top slot, we'd hit triangle. So we're going to put those, or we put those right there. I didn't really mean to do that, and we used one, which I didn't really mean to do either. But you know, so that's pretty much what that is there. So let's go ahead and set those to the top slot on the left side on the L2 crossbar, or on the left crossbar. And so that's how you do that, and so square is just gonna, so that's what square does typically, is it's just gonna bring up usually menus of the menu for specific things. Now on some things there aren't going to be a menu, like the huge hornet, like your hunting log and things like that, but anything that you can interact with, there's usually going to be a menu. So like if we select a player character, right, this person here, we can hit square, and it's actually going to bring up the menu of the things that we can do with that character. We can examine them, which will bring up their character sheet and tell us and show us what they have equipped, and a model of their character, as well as what level they are, what class they are, where the standing is with their grand company, which is something we'll get into later on as well. And then I'm not sure. Oh, and then their free company, and how many members are in their free company. And then this little button over here is we can actually view their company profile. So this will give us all the information on the free company that this character has joined or is a part of. So we can see their name, we can see the master, the free company master, or the guild lead, the leader of the free company. We can see what rank they are. And in Final Fantasy XIV, free companies level somewhat similarly to characters. They have ranks. So a rank 1 free company has certain things that they can do, and as they increase in rank, they have more capabilities and more options for things that they can do with the free company, such as free company buffs. So the higher the rank that the free company is, they'll end up having access to beneficial effects that they can apply, that they can activate for anyone within that free company. So one example would be there's a beneficial effect or a free company buff that anyone in the guild lead, or I think some of the officers, even if they're given permission, can activate, that would increase the amount of experience that everyone in the free company gains. And I think those last 24 hours. We can also see how many members are online and how many members the free company has total. We can see when the free company was started. So this free company was started on December 5th, 2013, so 2 years ago. So this free company's been around for a good while. And this will actually give you, doing this will actually give you a good idea as to whether or not this is a free company you might want to join. And the fact that it's been around for 2 years and it has quite a few members, that means it's probably a pretty stable free company. And if that's something that you would be interested in, this may not be such a bad free company to join. We can see that they do have housing, and it looks like we can actually display their housing profile. And then the slogan for the free company, we can see they allow the free company to denote what their focuses are. So here's a list of these. Of those, and anything that's lit is something that this free company focuses on. So role playing they don't really focus on, so if you're into role playing, this may not be the free company for you. Let's see, leveling for sure, so leveling different classes and things like that, that's always good. Casual, and they focus on casual play, and they focus on hardcore, so it looks like they have a little bit of something for everything, for everybody. So there's probably players in there who do push content and want to progress quickly and want to progress and focus on progression, so progressing through the story and trying to complete raids, new raids and new content that comes out as quickly as they can. And then casual play is just for people who, are just playing the game. You know what I mean? Maybe they want to do raids, maybe they don't. Maybe they want to do primal fights, maybe they don't. And even if they do, they may not be too worried about getting through it in any particular amount of time. Dungeons, they focus on dungeons. Guild heists, they focus on guild heists. Trials, which are your primal battles, and then raids as well. And the last one's PvP. So these guys they're not really focused, not too worried about roleplay, they're not too worried about PvP, but these things they are worried about. So that can kind of give you an idea of what an FC is about. You really won't know until you join about what the community is like and what the culture of the free company. Each free company is going to have a different culture because people are different. So they may be super goofy, you know what I mean, and just having a blast all the time in the chat, or they may be very serious and and really just focus on getting things done and calling out for help on particular things and things like that. Or they may not talk very much at all, you know what I mean, and they may, and so once you get in, you'll be able to see the culture of the free company, and you'll be able to see whether or not it's really for you or not for real. You can also see what they're looking for. So these guys say they're pretty much looking for everything. They're looking for tanks, they're looking for healers, they're looking for DPS, they're looking for crafters and gatherers. So they're open to anybody. Active, it says that they're always active. So there's one person always on at all times. And then recruitment is open. So they're open to recruitment right now. They're willing to view applications, and they're looking for people to join. So you can see here that we can submit an application if we want to. if we wanted to, or we can close the window. So if we wanted to, see if we could join this free company, we can submit an application, and anyone who can authorize people to join the free company will be able to see that application, and they'll be able to look and say, okay, this person is X level, and they're this class, and things like that. So and then they can decide from there whether or not they want to allow you to join. And you can see that she's noticed that we have had her targeted, because when you, in Final Fantasy XIV, when you target a player, your character will, or when you target anything, your character will look in that direction. So she knows that we've probably been inspecting her for at least for a little while. The next one is send tell. So this is to send a private message. So if we wanted to say something to her, but we didn't want to say it where everyone could read it, like, hey, I'm interested in joining your free company. Is there a level requirement? Ask her any questions about that. We could definitely do that to her, and not have everybody else in the world know, hey, this dude's looking for a FC, or so forth and so on. We could trade with her, so we could trade different items that we have for different items that she has, or we could trade items we have for Gil, or however we want to do that. So you can trade Gil, and you can trade items as well. We can invite her to a party or to a group, so that way she could see our health bar, we could see her health bar. She could target us a lot easier for spells and for beneficial effects, and we could do the same for her. And there are some abilities that some classes are going to have that can only be used on other party members or people that are in a party with you. So that allows her to use those, such as she's a white mage, so she'll have a ability called Protect, which is a buff that gives players extra defense, but it can only be used on players that are in your group or in your party. So if we wanted to get Protect from her, we'd have to be in a party with her, so we'd have to join her party. We can send her a friend request, so that way she'll show up on our friends list, and we can send her a tell from there. We can pretty much do all of these things except for trade, and follow, and emote, and mark. But we can do a lot of general things there a lot easier. We don't actually have to find her in the game world in order to do those things. We can view her company profile, which we already did, but we could do that from here without having to go to her character sheet. We can select to follow her, and what that is auto follow. So that means if I'm standing here and I select follow, if she moves and starts going off up those stairs over there, my character will automatically follow her. So you can use that if you're going to go AFK, or away from keyboard. If you're going to step away from the game for a little while, but your friends are doing something, or a group you're in is doing something, and you want to be able to just, when you get back, to just be where they are, you can set yourself to follow them. And it can be used if you're lazy as well, if you just don't feel like moving the controller. Or using your keyboard. And then we can select select emote, which will bring up the emote menu. So we can select her and hit square and bring up the emote menu, and then choose an emote to do specifically with her targeted. And if we do that, then you can see there on the chat box that she patted us, which is an emote, which would be to pat, an emote you can do. And it says that Talira Vizik gently pats you. So it let us know that she did the emote pat, and that she patted us specifically. And then if we were to do that to her, it would say you patted Talira Visk. And if you were neither of those characters, if you were on the outside of that, it would say Talira gently pats Sigurd Hakuto, which is the name of our character. So we would know what Talira did and who she did it to, or vice versa. We can mark her, which this will bring up the mark menu, which is used generally for raids and dungeons. We can mark her with a 1 or a 2, and nobody else is going to see this but us, unless they're in our party. So if, let's say, no one else is going to see that but us or anyone in our party. So if we wanted to, if we needed to mark people in sequence, so let's say we needed to mark her as a 1, and we needed to mark ourselves as a 2. So let's say we were assigning specific tasks. So number 1, your task is to do X. Number 2, your task is to do Y when you need to. It just kind of lets everybody know who they are without having to specifically, hopefully, without having to remember specifically, and that way everybody else knows, okay, Talira is taking care of that and Sig is taking care of this, so when those things happen they don't have to worry about who's doing what. It helps with organization. Or maybe you can mark enemies as well, so if you need to, so if one enemy needs to be taken out, defeated before any other enemies are defeated, you can mark that enemy with a number 1, so that way everybody knows, okay, we've got to defeat this guy first, we have to focus on this guy first, and once he's down we can deal with the rest of them, and things like that. And there's different marks for different reasons, so target to ignore, target to bind, or CC, which is something that we'll get into later on as well. And that just brought up a whole can of worms, but let's see here, party signs. Okay, oops, there's a clear button. Okay, so again, for Final Fantasy XIV, and you can, if you're playing with a controller, you can hit the X button on PS4 to select the closest thing to you, and then if you hit X again, it will interact with it. So that's going to be how you talk to people and how you pick up quests, and how you interact with things on the things in the game world. So earlier when we were picking up the coins, that's what we were doing. We were getting close to the item, and hitting X to select it, and then X again to interact with it to pick them up. You can also use the D-pad, which is your up, down, right and left arrows on the controller on the left side, to kind of scroll through targetable things within the area or within your field of view. So players or items that you can interact with, it'll actually scroll through and they'll do what we call a soft select. So you're not actually selected. So you're not actually selected. It's just showing you that you can select this thing or the player. So if I want to interact with something, let's say I'm scrolling through, and that's what it helps when you're walking up and I want to select this guy over here, but if I hit X, it's hard to figure out where to hit X, or when to hit X. So if you're trying to get someone specifically or something specifically, it's a lot easier just to use that, so you can get through and select. So we can select this person specifically. Rather, if I were here and I just hit X, I would actually select the flame personnel officer. And then your right stick is going to be to move. So this is how you're going to move. There are two control streams. There's the legacy controller, and then there's, I think, the camera controller. Yes, or standard. So the legacy type is camera based, which means it's more going to focus on your right stick, which controls the camera, so you can pan and look around. The standard is going to be character based, so we'll see what that's like here real quick. Oops. So let's try this. So camera based controls. Camera-based controls are going to keep your character facing whichever way the camera is facing. So if you want to go forward, you'll go forward. If you want to turn left, though, you're gonna have to spin the camera left, because left and right on the character to control your character, or then the move stick is going to actually strafe, and then backing up is actually going to back up. So your character is camera faced, camera focused. So that's it's definitely not bad. If that's the way that you like to play, for sure, you definitely can. I will say that later on it can make things difficult, especially if you do need to back up quickly. If you very slowly. That's the only downside, because there are going to be times where you're going to need to move very quickly. You're going to need to do it. You're going to need to do it very quickly. So that's the only downside there. So I like to use the legacy setting, which is camera based. or first was character based. So this is camera based. So what this is I can swing the camera around. I can and look anywhere I want to look, and Sig is just going to stay right where he is. If I want him to go forward, I'll move him forward on the left stick, and if I want him to go backwards, I move backwards on the left stick, and you'll see that he'll change his facing. He'll change his facing appropriately. If I want him to go right, he'll go right. Left, he'll go left. And this gives me the freedom to move wherever I need to move. And so if I'm trying to pay attention to the battlefield and something happens where I need to move south very quickly, or down, or if I need to move down very quickly, I can just do that. I don't have to worry about it, because on the controller or on the character-based camera, I would have to spin my camera around and go this way to do it quickly, which is going to take time. Otherwise, Sig would be sitting there backing up really slowly. And then if you don't have anything selected, we were bringing up our map earlier a lot. If you don't have anything selected, Square will actually bring up your map, and it'll be activated for you there, so that you can actually scroll around on the map. The right stick is going to pan across the map, and if you hit the left stick, it's going to go back to your character, and you can see that it deselected the menu and put it into a translucent type state. But all you have to do is hit square again, and it'll let you pan across the map a little bit easier. These buttons up here, I've never really understood how to use them effectively. I think it's there's a lot of different ways, like you can hide icons, and you can lock the map. Let's see what that says. Lock map, so it cannot be closed by pressing the escape key or the square button when the main menu is displayed. Not sure what that is. So like I said, I never really worried too much about these buttons. We can turn off map transparency. Let's see. Okay, so if we turn off the map transparency, the map will stay highlighted as if it were selected. Let's go back and show. And this button here will actually hide text and icons, so we can select only to see icons, only to see text, or to see neither, or to see both. So if you are trying to find something specific, like in this area here, you can see there's a lot of text here. If you were trying to find something specific but having a hard time, you could take the text off just to see the icons that are around. And so it would kind of declutter the map there. So that's the map. For our crossbar, to use our abilities, you can see that we have boot shine over here, which is on the right side of the crossbar. And in order to activate the right side of the crossbar, you'll have to activate the right side of the crossbar in order to use things, or to use slots, items, or abilities in slots on the right side, and you'll have to activate the left side. So to activate that, you can see it says to press R2. So if we just press R2, it'll activate it and then let it go. But if we hold it, it'll stay activated. And then you can see that it brings up the icons that are tied to any particular slot. So if we want to use boot shine, we'll have to hold R2 to activate the right crossbar, and then hit circle to use that ability. You can see it says it's not invalid target, or we would have to hit X, as X is assigned to the slot that True Strike is in. And then we don't have anything on square or triangle, but if we did, we would hit X, we would hit square to assign to use that, whatever's assigned to that slot, whatever's in that slot, and triangle there. And then here we would use the up arrow on the D-pad, right, left, or I'm sorry, right, down there, or left here. And then it's going to be the same thing for the left side of the crossbar. We'll hold L2 and then hit the corresponding button that corresponds to the slot that we want to use. Now it says, you can see in the center here, it says pad button edit, and that's just that big square pad in the center of your PlayStation 4 controller. So we can edit hotbar here. I've actually never used this before, so I'm not sure exactly how it works. Oh, so we can actually, okay, cool. So it allows us, what that allows us to do is it allows us to move things around by using the crossbar. So you can see we're holding L2, and let's say we want to move our potions over to triangle. We would select our potion as if we were going to use it, and then we would hit triangle to reassign it. Now we don't have to just do that on the left side of the crossbar, I'm sure. We could select it as if we were going to use it, and then put it on the right crossbar if we wanted to. And then we can move it back and forth. Personally, I generally either find the ability or item in the inventory and just use square to do it that way, even if it's already on my crossbar. And if I want to take something off, I'll use the touchpad. On PlayStation 4, the touchpad will work as a cursor, so you can select different things. It's kind of difficult on moving objects, but let's say we want to select Rand here. We can just use the touchpad and go and hover over Rand and just click in, and we can select him. So that's another way you can select different things in the world, which is a little bit easier again than hitting X if we're in a crowded area, because we can select this person, this person, this person. On PlayStation 4 you can use a mouse, so you can hook up a mouse and it will you can still use the touchpad, but it will still move the cursor around as if you were on PC. So that makes things a little bit easier as well. The R1 button actually is going to cycle through your crossbar, so you can see that we have skills. You can see here that we have listed up here multiple crossbars. If I hold the R1 button down, it brings up this list here, or this UI here, and this is going to say that we currently have 8 crossbars. The first crossbar is connected to the triangle button. The second crossbar is connected to the circle button. The third crossbar is connected to the is connected to the X button, and fourth is square, and so on and so forth. So you can see that we have abilities. And we have an emote, and we have an ability on our second crossbar. So if we're on our first crossbar and we want to go to our second crossbar, we can hit circle, and it'll bring up the second crossbar so that we can use those abilities as well. You can also just tap the R1 button and it'll cycle through crossbars. Any crossbar that you have items or abilities or emotes or any kind of button on. So if we had something on the third crossbar and we hit R1, it would cycle from the first one to the second one. And let's just put something on the third one here, so we can we'll put bow on here so we can demonstrate this. If I just hit R1, it'll cycle through all the hotbars that I have something to use on. So we have the first one, I just tap R1, it'll go to the second one, and I tap R1 again, and it'll go to the third one, and I tap R1, and it'll go right back to the first one. And the reason for that is as you gain levels and as you get closer to levels, you're going to gain quite a few abilities. Typically I've got 2 crossbars at least on all the classes that I've leveled, because you do have so many abilities. It's a lot easy. It's going to take up a lot of space, so you're not going to have enough space just on one crossbar to put all your abilities. So you're going to have at least 2, and so R1 just allows you to switch back and forth between crossbars so that you can use those abilities. Typically I like to put all the ones that I use generally on the first crossbar, just so that they're there, so I can use them very easily. And anything that I would use that's situational or that has a very long cooldown, I'll put on the second crossbar, just so that it's a lot, so that I don't have to keep constantly flipping through crossbars in order to use different abilities. So if let's say boot shine was on crossbar 2, I would have to
go to crossbar 2 and hit boot shine, and then go back to crossbar 1 and hit true strike, and I just have to keep switching back and forth. So the ones that you use regularly, you're usually going to want here on your primary crossbar on the first crossbar. L1 I don't think actually really does anything that I can think of at all. I don't think I've ever actually used that before. And what we can do here is if we click in on the look stick or the camera stick, the stick that controls the camera, we can see that we go into first person view. So if you want to get a closer, if we wanted to get a closer look at Rand's armor here and see the chainmail and see what it's made out of, we could do that. We can get a little bit closer look. And if you are someone who likes to take screenshots and things like that, that's always a good thing to do. That's always a good feature to have, is to be able to go to first person view. There is another feature that I don't think is really listed anywhere, and that's if you do hold L1 and then click in on the touchpad, it'll actually take away all the UI effects except for the cursor. So you'll want to make sure to remember that. You just slide that bad boy up there in the corner. It'll disappear. So again, if you like taking screenshots, or even if you like making movies and things like that, you want to do some videos, you definitely can do this, and it'll take off the UI so you don't have the UI cluttering everything up. And that way you can take just a good screenshot. On the PS4, all you have to do is hit the share button. You can just hit it and then press triangle, save that screenshot for you. Another thing that you can actually do, if you do want to take a quick video or you want to start a recording of a video, you can double tap the share button and it'll set the PS4 into record mode, and it will record the next 15 minutes from that point. And then all you have to do when you're done, if you don't want to wait the whole 15 minutes, is just go ahead and hit the share button, and it'll bring up the menu, and you can press square to save that video. So we'll go ahead and hold all L1 and hit the touchpad to bring our HUD back up. And it is good for videos for sure. I've done a couple where I'd done certain fights so much, and and I knew my class well enough to feel comfortable where I could take the HUD off and do a recording of certain fights, like Leviathan, and I think I tried Titan one time. But that way you can just get a really clean video and of certain things, or a really clean picture. But that's really about the basics. You're going to use your left stick to generally move your character, your right stick to move your camera, and you can do both independently. So you can see I can hag sig, run in circles, but and do it this way, and keep my focus on the center of the road here, if I want to. Very much like a first-person shooter to a degree on a controller. Now on a keyboard, it's going to be a lot different. You usually are going to use the W, A, S, and D key. W will move you forward, S will move you backwards, A will move you to the left, and D will move you to the right. And then you'll use the mouse to control your camera. Typically what you'll do is you'll press and hold the right click or the right button on the mouse, and then you can move your mouse around to control where the camera is looking. You'll use the left button to select different things, and then whatever you have selected, you can typically just hover over with the cursor and hit the right button, and that will typically bring up the menu. Now we can actually switch over and show you the UI for the controller, or for a mouse and keyboard setup. So this is the setup for the mouse and keyboard. You can see that they changed it to character based. I'm not really sure why, but I know that with the mouse you can usually spin the camera around a lot faster, so you'll be able to turn faster if you want to. You can still switch to camera based if you want to, even while using mouse and keyboard, which will make movement a little bit freer. But you can see here that hotbar 1, that hotbar that we put down there, this is going to be where all your abilities would end up. And you can see that there's a number over each slot, and that's the number that's associated with that slot. So in order to use Featherfoot, for example, we would press 1. And that would activate Featherfoot. And if there was something in the box labeled 2, we would hit the 2 button on the keyboard, so forth and so on. Now, you can still have multiple hotbars, and you can see here that you can. These are called hotbars and not crossbars, but you can see here that we can. And usually, I think you usually hit Shift, and then the number for the crossbar that you want to go to. Let's see, I do have a keyboard here. Let's see if we can figure this out. Shift and 2. Yep. So you would hit the Shift button, you would hold the Shift button down, and then hit the number of the bar that you wanted to go to in order to get to that bar. And you can use the arrow keys to move the camera around. W is going to move forward, A is going to move back, or S is going to move back, A is going to spin the camera. This is a little... So again, I would probably switch over to character-based or camera-based. For this even. So yes, that'll allow us to strafe or to move right or left at full speed, back at full speed. We can use the camera, and then we could use a mouse or the arrow keys to spin the camera. We can also hold Shift and hit up, and that'll move us to the next that'll move us to the next hotbar, so forth and so on, or in the next, or down. Now you can have multiple crossbars, as you can see. This crossbar here was actually brought into active, and you can see that it has a C and a 1. So what that means is if we wanted to use that ability, we would hold Control and hit 1. But since we don't have anything there, it's not actually going to let us use it. But that's just so that you can have ease of access to multiple abilities all at the same time. A lot of people would say that playing with mouse and keyboard is going to be a lot better, it's a lot more efficient, and they're probably right. But that's not to say that if you use a controller that you're at any kind of deficiency or anything of that nature. And the most important button on a keyboard is going to be spacebar. That's going to be your jump button, and that is most definitely the most important button. But that is, yeah, again, as we were saying, that does not mean that you're going to be at any kind of deficiency because you want to use a controller. As it stood before Heaven's Word dropped, I was definitely able to clear every EX Primal and most of the Binding Coil of Bahamut. I wasn't really into raiding at the time. With just a controller without any problems. Once you get used to it, it's very natural, it's very intuitive, but so is keyboard and mouse. And also there are MMO mouses or mouses designed to be used with MMOs to make playing MMOs easier that will have buttons on them, so you can assign certain abilities to those buttons on the mouse so that you don't even have to use the keyboard. You can just use the mouse to use your abilities, which I've heard is very, very, very useful. So if you are using mouse and keyboard and you are looking to get into MMORPGs, I would definitely look into getting a mouse, an MMO mouse. But that's generally it. Just the basics. Selecting with a controller is X. To select with a keyboard, I'm sure you could use. You cannot use tab. If you're selecting with mouse and keyboard, typically you're going to use your mouse to hover over and click on whatever it is that you want to select, and then to interact with whatever you have selected, you would click again. Let's see. Actually, I do have a mouse here, so we'll see what this does. Yep, you would right click actually. So right clicking in Final Fantasy XIV is not going to bring up the menu. It's actually going to interact. Not if you wanted. If if you want to bring up the menu, I'm actually not sure how you would do that here. Let's see. Keybinds. So bringing up the keybind menu, you can see here on the mouse and keyboard setup that we do have these buttons here, and they're the main menu buttons. On PlayStation 4 on a controller you can hit, I'm assuming what would be start on other controllers. On PlayStation 4 it's going to be the options button, and that's going to bring up your menu. But on PC you've got, with the keyboard and controllers, or keyboard and mouse setup, you've got these buttons down here, so you can bring up your character, anything you need for your character, and it actually shows you how to get there faster if you're using a keyboard. So if you want to change stances, you can hit Z. If you want to go to your character, you can just hit C on the keyboard. You don't have to go down to these menus, but it is nice to know for sure, especially if you don't already know the shortcuts to those. But if we also go to key binding, it's going to show us all the buttons that are bound, all the buttons that are, what the buttons are all assigned to. So you can see move forward is assigned to W, and backwards is S. Left to turn or to move left is A, and to turn or move right is D. And then we have strafe left, strafe right, space bar is to jump. So let's see if we can figure out how to open the menu. System probably. Display main menu is the num, the plus button. Let's see. I'm not sure what that does. Oh, that's right. Let's see here. Sorry guys, I haven't really messed too much with the keyboard for this game. Okay, so that's not that. It's actually going to display that. Let's see. Open HUD layout, cycle through HUD component, start filters, cancel macro, mouse sensor, switch to hotbar, switch to pet hotbar. Target main menu. We're going to try and figure this out, guys. Let's see here. Let's try seeing with the mouse in character configuration. We'll see what this says. It just says clicking on self. Let's see what happens if we right click an item. So right clicking an item will bring up the menu for that item. Let's see what happens if we right click a player character. Yeah, and right clicking a player character will bring up the menu as well. But right clicking NPCs doesn't actually seem to do that. It seems to actually activate them, so that could be problematic if you were trying to do an emote. So you would, looks like you would want to bring up the emote menu to do that, and that way you can actually use an emote on what you had targeted specifically. So that's, yeah, it's a little bit different on keyboard and mouse than it is on controller. Personally, I do like controller, but yes,
So just a quick refresh. To select things, you can hit X and it will select the closest thing in direct line of sight. You can use the touchpad if you want to select something, or you can use a mouse if you want to. If you do want to just use the mouse, you can plug that right into the PS4 and it'll activate and it'll work like a mouse on PC. Or you can use the D-pad to cycle through targetable available targets, and then use X to select those targets. To interact with an NPC or any kind of item in the overworld or in the world, in the game world, you would just select them, and it'll show that's a definite selection there, and you will hit X again, and that will interact and that will interact with that object or NPC. And then square is going to bring up your map, so you can kind of look through your map and scroll over your map. You'll use your left or your right stick in order to pan over the map. If you hit the right stick, it'll cause your character to move. The map will still be there, but it'll go a little translucent there. And then if you want, you can hit square to exit to close the map down. Triangle is to jump, it's the most important button. Can get you everywhere faster. Not really, but it does. It makes it feel like it. And then circles to cancel. So if I have somebody selected, I can hit circle and it'll take them off my target. So you can see that I've got this guy Jajakuta. I've got him selected. If I wanted to go and select somebody else, I couldn't, because he's the one that I'm selected on the main selection. So if I wanted to, I would have to hit circle to clear that selection, and then hit X again on whatever to select whichever. Now that does not apply to the D-pad cycling through that way. You can see that I've got the Flame Quartermaster selected, but I can still cycle through anybody within my view anything in my view that's selectable, and I can hit X from there to select that. I can also, if I have someone selected, I can always use my touchpad or mouse to select something regardless of what I have selected currently. And once you get out into the world, we'll talk about another type of selection. There's a selection specifically for enemies. If you hold down the R2 button and you hit either R1 or L1, it will actually cycle through targetable enemies for you, but it's only going to cycle through. It'll actually be a hard select. It's not going to be a soft select. So if you're on the battlefield, if you're in combat and you have, let's say this guy's an enemy here, and we're attacking him, and all we want to do is just hit the snowman over here with one punch. We can use the D-pad to soft select him and use circle, and use R2 plus circle to use our boot shine, and it will use that ability on him, and then it will refocus on the Galka here, the Rogadin, immediately after. But let's say that we wanted to totally switch targets and we wanted to do it very quickly. We could hold R2 and hit R1, and it would cycle over directly to the snowman, and he would become our new focus, and we could use as many abilities as we wanted on him. So that's definitely very, very useful, especially in situations where you're going to need to switch targets quickly, and they will probably come. You can click in on the camera stick, the stick that controls the camera, to get to first person view, and then you can hold L1 and hit the touchpad to remove the UI, so you can get cool screenshots. You can get this real cinematic effect. If you want to take video, you can definitely take videos and things of that nature. And then L2 and R2 are going to be, or just on their own, will activate either side of the crossbar. And that's really about it as far as basic controls. If you want to talk to an NPC, you just run up and select them, and then hit X with X, and then you hit X again, and that's going to bring up the whatever it is that conversation will, whatever it is activating will do. This guy has a quest. I'm using the D-pad to select the selectable items on this menu here, and then X confirms my selection and circle will actually back out. Now another thing is if you have multiple windows open, let's see if we can actually, well, let's say we have one window open and then we click somewhere else, and we want to just get back to that menu. The best way to do that is, since it's the character menu and we know how to get there, we can definitely go back to the main menu, go back to character, and we'll have that menu selected again so we can scroll through. Again, I use the D-pad on the menus. You can, of course, use the touchpad or a mouse to switch through things, but you can see here that we can just scroll through the different items on this menu, and then also we've got up here you can see that it says L1 here to move to the left on there. Through these tabs we can tab through the different tabs on this menu by hitting R1 and L1. So yeah, you can do that, but let's say we selected out for some reason, and we want to get back quickly. We can just hit the touchpad. Just click it on the touchpad and it'll bring you back to this menu. So we clicked out. If we click back in and we just want to go back, we can just go back and click that and we're right back to where we were, being able to select and scroll around here. And then while we have it selected, we just hit circle and it'll back out. And those are really the basic controls of things, of the game, as far as controller goes mainly. Keyboard and mouse I haven't really messed around with, but controllers definitely have used the majority of the time. So hopefully that covers the basics of controls and controlling the character, and the two different control types and how to interact with the world. So with that being said, we're going to end this little clip here, and hope you guys enjoy. If you have any questions or if I skipped over anything, just let me know. Definitely comment in the comments, or you can send me an email at FFXIV and things, FFXIV in like the letter, and then things at gmail.com. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Goodbye, Sig. Let's get a little. We'll zoom in on Sig here real quick. There we go. Oh yes, to zoom in and zoom out. If you hold L1 and move down on the camera stick, it'll zoom out, and in will zoom in. So that way, if you want to be a little focused more, you just hit. You can do that. But if you want to get a better view of the world around you, you can hit down, and that's going to become very helpful in different in fights later on and things like that. But yeah, that should be the last one. So we'll wave goodbye, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.